Good afternoon or evening for some of you out there. We had another training camp session. I believe it was the 11th training camp session so far this off-season wrap up just now. And we got some updates from the beat reporters, mostly injury related, as is probably going to be the case for the rest of camp. I think that that's just kind of an inevitable fact of training camp for an NFL team at a certain point. It doesn't matter as much which players look good and which players don't look good because over the course of a several week long training camp, pretty much every player on your team is going to have at least a couple moments where they look good. And that's kind of all you need to see. You don't need them to be dominant every single moment. You just need to know that they are capable of playing at a very high level so you can count on getting that at least some of the time in the regular season. So after a while, you stop caring so much about, oh, this guy scored some touchdowns today. Oh, this guy got some interceptions today. It never completely goes away, but as we get closer to the season, it becomes more important that these guys are actually physically capable of playing football in actual games. So at this point, it's mostly injury stuff that people have their eyes on, especially with us being 2 days away from the first preseason game. So, what the beat reporters had to say is first, I want to lead with this because this is kind of the big story right now for the Seahawks. Condotta tweets about Witherspoon here, and Witherspoon is kind of the hot topic for a lot of Seahawks fans right now because people already have ants in the pants about this guy because he was our number 5 overall draft pick. He was the pick we got. He's kind of the big pull that we got out of the Russell Wilson trade, and it got off to a little bit of a bad start because he didn't report for the first 2 days, and then he came in and initially got beat up a little bit, but then he looked really good for a few days and everyone calmed down. And then in the mock game, he got dinged up a little bit and people are starting to panic again. Generally speaking, what I have to say is that people need to calm down and realize we're not going to have any answers for a little while here. It's going to be a while before we know whether or not we hit or not. Whether or not we hit would actually be the right way to phrase that. Just understand that nothing that happens in training camp or practice or preseason is going to define this. We're not going to really know what we have until we get to the regular season in all likelihood because that's just always the way that it is. I understand that there's a desire to get quick answers, quick resolution on things, but nothing that happens right now is really going to provide that. So we're just going to have to wait and see on this one. But Witherspoon is indeed a little bit dinged up at the moment, and he didn't practice and do all that much today. So that's going to have some people concerned. But Condotta does mention he was pretty active on the sidelines, racing down to celebrate big plays and things like that. So he didn't practice. He did have a wrap on his upper leg, which I believe was the case immediately after the mock game and also for at least some of yesterday. But it doesn't seem all that serious. If it was serious, I don't think he'd be running up and down the sideline. So there is a game in 2 days, and Witherspoon is a guy who is probably going to want to play in that game. We have some guys who don't need to be playing in that game. Like several people have already said it. Don't expect Geno to be playing. I don't know if you're going to see Metcalf play or Lockett play. I don't know if you're going to see Wagner play. You don't really need to see those guys out there, but Witherspoon's definitely a guy who could use it. So maybe we're just being a little careful with him in the couple of practices right before the first preseason game so we can make sure he gets out there. So I don't know everything that's going on with this guy right now, but what I can say is that it doesn't seem to be all that bad. He did get held out of practice today, and we'll see what's up on the game day, on game day on Thursday. That should be pretty interesting, but he's definitely a guy who could use the reps. Brady Henderson also tweets a little bit about some of the injury situations. D. Eskridge was not practicing today, so he is out. We don't know with what yet. We don't know really what happened. He was practicing yesterday and actually turned in a couple of good plays, but he was out for at least today. Joey Blunt out, but that's expected because he did get carted off. We don't really have any updates there about how bad it is. Again, he got carted off, so it can't be great, but haven't gotten anything concrete about how long of an injury this could be. Ken Walker and Damian Lewis are still sidelined. Damian Lewis, by the way, has now missed a couple in a row. Initially, I thought maybe he was just getting the day off, but it seems like there is actually a little something going on there. We haven't heard anything saying that it's all that serious. So hopefully it isn't, because we need Damian Lewis very badly. He was our best offensive lineman last year, and honestly, he has a chance to be our best offensive line again this year. There was also, oh, excuse me, there was also no Tariq Woolen expected because he's still coming back from his PUP stint. Kenny McIntosh expected. Derek Young, who I'm a little concerned about because a sports hernia is no joke. Daryl Taylor, still no real timeline for him, although they're saying it doesn't need surgery. And linebacker V. Jones. I wasn't aware of any kind of injury for V. Jones. Brady Henderson also mentions that Miles Adams and Cam Young are not practicing either. But again, this is game week. A lot of these guys sitting out might be sitting out just to make sure they're ready for the game. Like, I haven't heard anything about an injury to Miles Adams or Cam Young or V. Jones for that matter. So those three guys might be 99.5% fine or even 100% fine, and they're just holding them out because, hey, they're going to play in this game and we want to make sure they're ready. We don't want to mess anything up. We don't want to put them in an awkward situation where they get dinged up just a tiny bit on the practice a couple days before the game and then they can't get out there for a very key preseason game. So I'm not really too worried about those three guys. I do have my eye on the Taylor and Young situations because, again, they just haven't really been giving us updates there. And that's really about it for the injury stuff. That's really all that I am aware of. So the list of players that are sitting out camp sessions is getting longer. The list is getting a little bit longer. But I think a lot of the guys sitting out are probably fine. There are a few guys that I have concerns about, but a lot of these guys I think are just, it's either precautionary or we don't need to give them reps right now because it's training camp and we know what they can do, and we're just kind of waiting for the regular season with some of these guys. Like Lockett hasn't done a lot over the last week, but do we really need to see stuff in training camp from Lockett? I don't think so. The only real update that I saw in terms of what happened on the field at this training camp session was this from Brady Henderson. A lot of drops in the passing game, but there were some big plays as well. Metcalf had a long touchdown, and Cody Thompson had a long touchdown too. By the way, Cody Thompson, as time goes by, it becomes more and more evident that he's just going to make this team. Initially, especially because of the Eskridge situation, we know Eskridge is going to miss the first 6 games. Cody Thompson is going to almost certainly make the team for those first 6 games at minimum, and then after Eskridge is back, we can decide what to do. But Cody Thompson has kind of snuck up here and proven that even though he doesn't have the elite potential or excitement factor of some of these other guys, he is better than a lot of them because he's reliable, he's been here a while, and he's proving himself in these training camp sessions and even in the mock game as well. So, good on Cody Thompson. Final thing I want to mention real quick before I end the video is the poll I ran where I was asking people which preseason game they wanted me to stream. It's relatively definitive right now. We have almost 600 votes, and the Cowboys game is winning by a 62 to 38% margin, so not quite 2-1, but close. The poll is still up. The poll is still open, but this is unlikely to be changed. So it does look like it's going to be the Cowboys game, and I know there are going to be some people who wanted it to be the Packers game, and I'm sorry for that, but I have to go with the poll, barring something blocking me at the last second from doing the Cowboys game. All right, that's about it. Talk to you guys later. Go Hawks.